Hey there, this is my new YouTube channel. I like some stuff, so I thought it'd be great to get a platform where I can talk about it. I've been planning on doing this for a while, but I never really had the inspiration of that is until recently. A little backstory. I love movies, so it only makes sense that I watch them a lot, right? You're following so far? Well, recently, I watched 1994's The Hudsucker Proxy, one of the lesser-known Coen Brothers movies, but it's a lot of fun nevertheless, and it's definitely worth the watch. Now, I work a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job, so it's a lot of me sitting in a cubicle. Some people listen to music while they work, some listen to podcasts. Me, you guessed it, I watch movies. Tucked into a little corner of my window so it's not too much of a distraction, but boy did that change. I can't say I'm a huge Paul Newman fan, but that's just because I'm not really that familiar with his work. I like The Hudsucker Proxy, but he was old in that, so I want to watch Paul in his prime. The Hustler is one of my favorite sports films. Now, the thing you need to understand about Paul Newman was, in his youth, he was considered quite a looker. So I did what any rational person would do. I Google imaged young Paul Newman. Most of you only really know him as a vinaigrette, but this is the Paul that I know. As I'm looking through my search results, I notice something that catches my eye. Cars. What does a 2006 Pixar film have to do with Paul Newman? That's where I started to dig. In the film Cars, Paul Newman voices the character of Doc Hudson, the older car with a grizzled past. Something seemed odd about the name, but I couldn't quite place it. Then immediately, I placed it. Doc Hudson. Hud-son. 12 years prior, we have The Hudsucker Proxy. Hud-sucker. This is where the pieces started to show themselves, and I just needed to glue that puzzle together. I started thinking, what does HUD have to do with anything? What's the connection? Numerology always seemed to be the way to go with these things, so I took a crack at that. HUD is 3 letters long, so the only logical conclusion is to ask ourselves, for an actor as acclaimed as Paul Newman, throughout his vast history of awards, what was the 3rd Oscar nomination that he got for Best Actor? Well, I did some research, and what I found shocked me. 1963, Paul Newman gets nominated for Best Actor in the film HUD. I know, crazy, right? It gets crazier. The plot for this film is about a son of a rancher who, due to his alcoholism, is a sucker for his vices, and he kills his brother in a car accident. The links are all there. I knew there had to be some kind of significance to all this. It couldn't possibly be just a handful of things that kinda lined up. Well, guess what? It wasn't. Paul Newman's very last role was voicing Doc Hudson in a short for Cars called Mater and the Ghostlight, in which Mater is afraid of ghosts. Shortly after this film was released, Paul Newman died in Connecticut of lung cancer. 1 year after his death, cinemas opened their doors with the film The Haunting in Connecticut. At this point, I can no longer fathom coincidence. What was Paul trying to tell us? Did he know the end was near? Did his enemies or producers of inferior vinaigrette plan his death? It seems like the case had run cold. That was until I kept on drawing facts to fit my conclusions. I went back to my tried and true method of numerology. It got me this far. Going back to HUD, H, U, and D correspond with the numbers 8, 21, and 5 respectively. 8, 21, 5. It's a date. August 21st of 2005, or May 8th of 2021 if you're in England. My first thought was this had to be the release date for The Haunting Connecticut. But, unfortunately, that was March 27th of 2009, or the 3rd day of the 27th month if you're in England. Next, I figured potentially it could be the release date of Cars or The Hudsucker Proxy. but as stated before, those films came out in 2006 and 1994 respectively, or 1994 and 2006 irrespectively if you live in England. HUD was also released 42 years prior to 2005, which eliminates that from the running as well, and to my knowledge it was never released in England. But then it hit me. Haunting in Connecticut, Mater and the Ghostlight. Two pieces that bridge together a thing, maybe. Paul is trying to contact us from beyond the grave. I ran a search for episodes of Ghost Hunters that took place in Connecticut, and would you believe it? They didn't air any episodes on August 21st, 2005. But one aired on August 24th, 2005, and it was in Connecticut, so close enough. The only thing that confuses me today is who killed Paul Newman with lung cancer. There are a couple of strands that just don't make perfect sense in the way he communicated with us. All of the other clues led somewhere, but the son from Doc Hudson was the only piece that didn't really seem to work. Son related to the son in the 1963 film, which links us back to Doc Hudson, but why? Why son? And why would he use a film about cars to connect it? Was it a message about the auto industry? Maybe urban life and the culture clash with rural living. I wasn't sure. Maybe I'd never know. Or at least that's how I felt before checking the mail. I got this very official document today from the office of Dr. Ben Carson. Yes, that Ben Carson. I was confused and unsure why. Did I forget to vote or something? I'm honestly not sure what Ben Carson is or does outside of the recent election. He's like a doctor or something. But regardless, the letter simply said, "Stop digging. BC." Clearly, he wanted me to give up my investigation, implying that if I continued, I'd be history, as implied by BC, which is a Latin phrase meaning in the past. I could imagine what kind of stake Ben Carson would have in all of this, so I put my reporter hat on one last time and decided to figure out just who old Benny was, and what I found shook me to my very core. Ben Carson is the secretary for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. HUD. It all makes sense now. I'm not sure quite what to do with all this information, but I figured I should pass it on to the public. It's what Paul would have wanted. Don't let Ben Carson's sweet smile fool you. Stay vigilant and stay vinaigrette.